The 54 African heads of state and government Sunday evening unanimously adopted a motion proposed by Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni and seconded by his South Sudan counterpart Salva Kiir Mayardit, compelling the International Criminal Court to return to Kenya under the principle of complementarity the crimes against humanity cases that President Uhuru Kenyatta, his deputy William Ruto and radio journalist Joshua Arap Sang face at the ICC.
In many African countries are signatory to the Rome Statute. But I think this thing is turning against them, against the presidents of Africa.
It is evident that political bias, control and flawed methodology are being deployed in the name of international justice. Yet, ICC proponents are ostensibly deaf to the increasingly vocal criticism against the court's bias against the Africans. This is not acceptable.
But the target of the African Union's motion, the International Criminal Court, has hit back, terming the African leaders' resolutions as political pronouncements that had no basis in law. Through its outreach coordinator for Kenya and Uganda, Maria Mabinti Kamara, the Hague-based court said it was a judicial institution that does not take political matters into consideration when deciding on cases related to the serious crimes allegedly committed in Kenya in 2007-2008 after the contested presidential poll outcome. The African Union, however, thinks otherwise.
The process ICC is conducting in Africa has a flaw. The intention was to avoid any kind of impunity and so ill governance and crime. But now the process has degenerated into some kind of race hunting.
The International Criminal Court says the African Union resolution notwithstanding, cases against Kenyatta, Ruto and Sang will proceed as scheduled since it was not bound by the AU decisions. The African leaders during their deliberations in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, resolved to push for the referral of the cases that Kenyatta and Ruto face or have them reinvestigated or withdrawn in totality. A move supported by Dr. Jendaye Fraser, a former U.S. Assistant Secretary of State in charge of African Affairs.
Most of these cases, in fact all of them, were brought by Ocampo, right? And if the Office of the Prosecutor is going to only target Africans and have this double standard, then perhaps African countries should withdraw from the ICC.
The African leaders resolved that if ICC ignores their stand, then they would consider withdrawing from the Rome Statute that establishes the court. 34 African countries are state parties to the statute that has a total of 119 member states.
It is not in the interest of the ICC, the Security Council, the African continent and relationships between the three to see further humiliation of African people and their leaders by an unfair criminal justice system.
But the ICC, through Kamara, has played down the mass walkout threat from the African leaders, insisting that the 34 African nations signed the Rome Statute based on the shared objective of fighting impunity and bringing justice to the victims of international crimes. Francis Gashuri, Citizen Live at 9.